How's it going? Adam Drake here, and today I'm going to share some information on setting droop and also share with you a few new tools from J Concepts that make setting your droop a bit more precise than kind of the old school traditional ways. So first, I'm going to show you kind of the more old school or traditional ways would be to just use a pair of digital calipers. Take your vehicle, and like on the MBX8R, the lower shock pins have a dimple that is in the center. So you will take your digital calipers. So my setting, kind of baseline setting for the front shocks is 104 millimeters. So I'll set this to 104, lock it in place. And then if you put one end of the calipers into that dimple on the lower shock mount, the upper or the other end of the calipers should also be centered in the upper shock mount screw. So this was already set, so I don't need to make any adjustment right to left. If you did need to make an adjustment, you would just use a 2mm ball end wrench to adjust the droop screw up or down depending on the direction you need to go. Then it evolved a bit from there to where Mugen and a few other companies made droop gauges that connect to the upper shock nut, and then you just swing it over, and here at the bottom it's numbered with lines to let you know what the droop is. This can be a little bit difficult to see at times if the lighting's not great. If you have good lighting, this is really simple, even easier than using the digital calipers. And again, if you need to adjust the droop up or down, you would just use a 2mm ball end wrench. So J Concepts is kind of evolving and making some tools to make stuff even a bit more precise. First, we have here the droop blocks. Part number is 5019, and these can be used for both 10 scale or 8 scale. And let's see if we can get these open here. So they're kind of a dual purpose block. So as you can see here, it's a aluminum anodized block. So when it sits on its side like this, you can read here on top, it's a 30mm block. So that would be used for 10 scale. When you flip it up to where the blue is on the top, or you could do it with the blue on the bottom, but it's made so that the blue is on top, it is a 36mm block. So that is going to be what we use for 8 scale buggy and truck. Larger scale vehicle, more travel, it needs a little bit taller block. So the way we're going to do this, you need to make sure you have a flat surface. I have the J Concepts carbon pit board. You will set the vehicle on there. So again, you have a perfectly flat surface. The car is sitting perfectly flat on it. You want the blocks basically just slightly behind the B block and slightly in front of the C block. And from there, we will take the J Concepts floating ride height gauge. So this can be used for setting ride height, but it's also has settings on here to be able to check your droop. Part number for this is 5018-2. And it's super simple. So we'll go ahead, obviously the tires are removed, remove the wheel nuts. You'll want to make sure the wheels are as close to straight as possible. With this ride height droop gauge, you can lock this in place. So normally for me, like if I'm setting ride height, for example on the rear, I normally start at 26mm. I'll set the gauge to 26mm, lock it in place when I set the ride height. For droop, you're going to want to allow this to float. So you'll just slide this under the wheel hub or under the axle, and then it will give you a droop number. So on this, it looks as though we're at 1. And then for the rear, you do the same thing. Pull the wheel nuts off, slide it under the wheel hex till you get to the lowest point. And on the rear, I am at 2. So my droop setting would be 1 in the front, 2 in the back. So depending on the setup sheet you look at, you may see different numbers for droop. I normally use the overall shock length from center to center. So my standard starting point would be 104 millimeters in the front and 114.5 in the back. But where that can get tricky is depending on your axle height, how much kick you're running, adjustments and things you're making to the car. If you're just measuring off shock length, you're not getting a true number for what the overall droop of the vehicle is or what the axle height is at full extension. So doing it this way on a setup board with setup blocks with a gauge that will give you the numbers both for droop and ride height, it's a much more precise method for setting. So again, -1 in the front, and in the rear, we'll check this. We are -2 in the back. The other thing that makes this more precise than using just the shock length is sometimes things can get tweaked or moved a little bit. An arm can be bent a little bit. So this is giving you the true setting of what the axle height is from left to right and front to back. So it's a bit more precise than kind of the old school setting your droop. So again, you just need to make sure if you're looking at someone's setup sheet, you pay close attention to see if they're using overall shock length or if they're using 36 millimeter droop blocks, because that also could vary. If someone is using a different height droop block, this number is going to obviously change slightly. So we'll also do another video here in the near future talking about kind of why or when you would want to change the droop front or rear and how that's going to affect the handling of your buggy and truck. But for now, just wanted to go over some of the different methods for how you can set your droop and overall shock length for 8-scale buggy and truck. If you enjoyed this video, it would be greatly appreciated if you would please like, share, and subscribe.